Hello and welcome to the program. This is Minority Opinions Podcast. I am your host, Hito, and as you can see in the title, it's just going to be me again. This is yet another solo episode. I did one about a month ago, and now I'm doing it again. So, Ricardo and I were supposed to record an episode earlier this week, and we were going to drop it on Monday or Tuesday, as we usually do. But we came to the conclusion that I should do this episode by myself and that he would come back next week to talk about whatever he saw. He's under a lot of pressure right now. He's dealing with the finals. He also has to work, and that's kind of demanding. So if you can reach out to him and say some kind words, that would be great. So yeah, all you Ricardo fans out there, you are stuck with me this week. I know what you're doing. I know you're trying to pause this episode. Well, if you want to do it, go ahead. See if I care. Now, before we get into the main part of the show, I have some quick announcements. And one of them is that 2019 is coming to a close. Man, this year just flew by real fast. We started this podcast about 6 months ago. And it's been a fun ride. We're going to continue doing this for as long as we can. But there will be 3 more episodes left for this year. So after this week, we're going to do another episode next week. And then the one after, we're going to talk about Star Wars. All things Star Wars, because The Rise of Skywalker is coming out. And we are very excited about it. So we're going to do an entire episode talking about Star Wars. And then our final episode of the year, which we are hoping to release on December 28th, Saturday the 28th, is going to be about our best of 2019. We're going to talk about our favorite movies of 2019. So yeah, that's our plan for the rest of the year. And after our final episode of the year, we're going to take about a week-long break, maybe 2 weeks, and we'll be back hopefully on January 10th to talk about best of the decade, meaning our favorite movies that came out from between 2010 and 2019. So that's going to be a lot of fun. That will be the very first episode of 2020, so keep an eye out for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Finally, before we get into the reviews, please go subscribe and review us on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review if you can, and we will read it out loud on the show. You can follow us on Twitter at MinorityOpod. We are also available on Spotify, Google, Stitcher Radio, pretty much every major podcast network. You can send us a letter to minorityopodcast@gmail.com. That's all in lowercase. If you have any requests or questions about us, you can email us there and we will answer it on the show. So with all that out of the way, let's talk some movies. Marriage Story is finally streaming on Netflix. Ricardo was able to watch this at the Castro Theater about a month ago, being projected on that giant screen. And he talked about it on the podcast about a month ago. You can check that episode in the archive. And now I finally got a chance to see it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see it in a theater. I watched it on an iPad, but still, I'm glad that I saw it. So this is the new film by Noah Baumbach, who did Frances Ha, The Squid and the Whale, and The Meyerowitz Stories, which is also on Netflix. It stars Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson as a couple going through a divorce. Adam Driver plays Charlie, who is a well-regarded avant-garde theater director in New York. His latest play became a huge hit, and now it's hitting Broadway. Scarlett Johansson plays Nicole, who is an actor from California. She had some success starring in this teen comedy earlier in her career, and that was supposed to launch her film career, but she got married to Adam Driver's character, and she moved to New York, and she started acting in his plays. They've been together for about 10 years. They have an 8-year-old son, and they're trying to get the whole thing done amicably without hiring lawyers. They still want to be friends, but once Nicole moves to California and talks to a lawyer, things become even more complicated. Now, I'm a big fan of Noah Baumbach's movies. If you are like me, who enjoys films in which characters talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, his movies are definitely right up your alley. Earlier in his career, his movies revolved around selfish and unlikable characters, but ever since Francis Ha, he started making more movies about compassionate and sympathetic people, the kind of people that we all can relate to or can identify with. And with Marriage Story, I think he's hit a career peak. This is one of the best films of the year. It's certainly his best film, although my heart still belongs to Francis Ha. I think that movie is so uplifting and inspiring. I can watch that movie over and over again, whereas this one, I have to be in a certain mood because this is a movie about marriage breaking apart. It's a movie about love lost. It's about people going separate ways and moving on. That's always hard to watch. But that shouldn't stop you from seeing this film because it is a really great film. This is a profoundly sad movie that's also beautiful and funny and human and honest. Films like this, films that deal with breakups and divorce, tend to take a side with one character and reduce the other character to a caricature. But this one I thought was very even-handed. I understood where these characters come from. I understood their point of views. At one point, I was on Charlie's side, and 2 minutes later, I was on Nicole's side, and 5 minutes later, I was like, there are no winners here. You guys are both pretty terrible and annoying. I know some people argued that because Baumbach is a man, he tries to make Charlie look more sympathetic than Nicole, and that he's trying to make Nicole look like this horrible monster. But I disagree. I think both of them are equally selfish in a different way, but ultimately they want what's best for their child. They just want to be a good parent. Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson are fantastic in this. This is two of the best acting performances I've seen all year and maybe this decade. You're going to be hearing about them a lot this upcoming awards season, and they totally deserve it. I also thought all the supporting players were fantastic as well. Laura Dern plays this showy lawyer in California, and Ray Liotta plays this grouchy, really rude, sort of hardened lawyer for Charlie. There is a court scene around halfway through the film where these two characters go toe to toe with each other, and it's so great. It's funny but also upsetting, and it's very amusing. There's also a scene earlier on in the film where Nicole is trying to serve a divorce paper to Charlie, and the back and forth between her and her sister and her mother is really amusing. It's one of the funniest bits in the entire movie, and I'm sure a lot of people have talked about this scene, and actually Ricardo, I think, mentioned this scene in his review, but there is this big argument scene between Charlie and Nicole around 2/3 of the way through that is really heartbreaking. Actually, heartbreaking is an understatement. This scene will shatter your heart. All the resentment and anger that they had for each other come out in the nastiest way possible. They say things that they don't even mean. And you can tell that there was love between them at some point, and that they had this great, loving relationship. But now that love is dead, and they are shouting at each other. This is a movie about good people doing horrible things to each other. So Marriage Story, I could not recommend this enough. Also, Randy Newman's score, it's terrific. It cuts right through your heart, like Jesus. But this movie is really good. I've seen this twice now. The first time around, I thought it was good. It was really hard to watch. It was very uncomfortable. I remembered all the serious bits more than the comedy bits, and I felt like I do not want to see this again. But the second time around, I was impressed by the generosity of spirit. I realized how even-handed this movie was. I found out this movie was funnier than I remembered. Baumbach did a great job of handling the drama and the comedy. It was painfully honest, but also beautifully done. I realized that I actually liked this movie because I loved these characters. I saw myself in both Charlie and Nicole. And yeah, this is a really great film, and everybody should watch it. Everyone who has a Netflix account is obligated to see this film. So Marriage Story, it's a big thumbs up. One of the best films of the year, without a doubt. And yeah, I thought it was great. Alright, so the holiday season is upon us, which means that it's time for people to get together and watch some films that will make them feel warm and cozy and just happy inside. And lucky for us, there is a great holiday movie available on Netflix that is not Marriage Story. I mean, we all know that Marriage Story is a great holiday classic, but it's not exactly for young kids, unless you really want to show what a true love looks like and completely messes with their perception and expectation of love. That's, I'm all for it. That's great parenting, preparing them for the reality. But for most folks, that's not really the case. So here comes Klaus. This is an animated film starring Jason Schwartzman and J.K. Simmons, and it is a story of a young postman and an old toy maker bringing joy and happiness to this little town that's plagued with cynicism and hatred. So I went into this film thinking, all right, it's an animated film distributed by Netflix, and no one's really talking about it. It's probably not that great, but let's check it out. It looks like it's a new take on Santa Claus story or whatever. So I'm gonna watch it. I went in just feeling completely cynical about it, and this was a delight from start to finish. I thought this movie was so charming and heartwarming. This melted my cold, cynical heart in the best way possible. It is a story that we've seen many times before, and it is about how true act of kindness and compassion can change the world, and that is a message that's been done many times in different movies, Paddington in particular. But when it's done right, it still feels nice. It's got everything you want from a holiday movie. It's got great, lovable characters, great animation, great story that anybody can relate to or can take something from. It's such a good-hearted film. There is this sequence, a montage, where the postman and toy maker make this tiny sled for this Sami child. Sami is this indigenous people who live in the northern parts of Norway and Sweden, I believe, and some parts of Russia as well. And they deliver this sled to this kid, and the kid finds it in the morning, and that puts a smile on her face. Pure joy bursts out, and you just feel like the world is a better place now. When the postman first arrives to this town, everything is gray and dark and lifeless. It doesn't look like people actually live there. There are two clans living in this town, and all they want to do is just fight. They have this long, sort of decades-long tradition of just hating each other. But once Jesper, the postman, and Klaus start giving presents to young children, the town becomes more lively, and that changes people. It makes everyone happy. The kids are smiling. The adults are not fighting anymore. It's directed by Sergio Pablo, who I believe is one of the creators of Despicable Me. So you know that the character design is going to be amazing, and the animation is fantastic. fantastic. The 2D hand-drawn animation is absolutely gorgeous. My only criticism is the familiar story, the predictable structure of it. You can tell pretty much how this movie plays out, but it doesn't really matter because it makes you feel warm inside. It's gonna make you a better person at the end. This is a wonderful movie that we all need to see right now. I mean, this is this year's Paddington. It's so good-hearted, it's so kind, it makes you feel good. So I was gonna review one more movie, which is also available on Netflix, but I've been pretty busy for the past week or so, and I haven't really gotten a chance to finish this particular film, so I'm gonna save that for next week. So I'm just gonna end the reviews right here, but I do wanna end this episode by giving you some update on our Patreon page. So very quickly, for those of you who don't know, Patreon is a crowdfunding membership website where people can sign up for a tier, a level, and receive some bonus content, some exclusive deals. A lot of podcast creators and some YouTubers have been using this platform, and we've been thinking about doing this for a while, and we decided that we are going to launch our Patreon page on January 1st. That's right, the first thing next year, our Patreon page will be live, so you guys can sign up and receive some bonus content, exclusive deals. So far, we have created 5 different levels, 5 different tiers, and you can donate as little as $1. Once again, the release date for our Patreon page is January 1st, so keep an eye out for that. So yeah, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Thank you so much for downloading it, and yeah, please share this on your social media so you can spread the love and spread the positivity, and the world will be a better place. All right, so we'll be back next week. Ricardo will be back next week to talk about some new releases, and I will talk about some stuff as well. So I'll see you guys next week.